and welcome to Time Buster Training. This is a series to inform you and inspire you on your fitness journey. So today we are speaking to Ric Moylan. Ric, how are you doing?
Hi Stuart, I'm well. How are you?
Good, not too bad, thanks. So we're going to be talking to industry experts, which is definitely what Ric is. We're going to talk to Time Buster trainers, and we're talking to people that I've had the privilege to be part of their fitness journey. So we've got 20 minutes. You know the format. I've got my traditional Casio watch here. Stop, starts, reset. That's all you need as a personal trainer. So I'm going to start the watch. Ric, just start off with, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your fitness journey and what you're currently doing now.
So first off, hi to everyone who's listening. My name is Ric. My journey as a I think even before I qualified, it started because, like a lot of young guys and young girls, I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a sports person. And for a number of different reasons, I think I had a bit of talent, but then it didn't quite happen for me. So I always kind of wanted to, if I couldn't play sport, I kind of wanted to, be involved in sport and work in sport and health and fitness and whatnot, So about 20 years ago now, I went to college, got myself qualified at a very basic level to begin with. And I went down the route of working as a fitness instructor for a little period of time, whereby I kind of walked into the job thinking that I, sort of knew it all and was going to make these big changes to people's lives and whatnot like that. And I found myself then, cleaning changing rooms and handing out towels and
I've been there.
And doing my bit of lifeguard duty and whatnot like that. And just, so we're clear, I'm glad I did that. It was part of my journey, So I kind of went back to university, got myself a degree. And like many things, I think probably from that point on, I've arrived at what I've done, and I was working part-time at a gym called LA Fitness, which was based in Manchester. They were predominantly a London-based company. They'd moved up to Manchester, and the opportunity presented itself for me to become a personal trainer with them. I was the only personal trainer in the gym in Manchester. I was the only personal trainer in Manchester City Centre at that time. There was very much a kind of thing of that personal training wouldn't work in Manchester. And I was very, very determined. I'd played football and I'd done a little bit of combat sports, and I've always kind of given my all in everything I've done. And so I kind of made a lot of mistakes and learned from those mistakes, and on I went, kind of training people one-on-one. I then started heading up a growth program where I was recruiting other trainers and training them up on behalf of the company. I ended up with over 120 personal trainers working underneath me at one point, and our gyms spanned from Carlisle, obviously, towards the borders of Scotland, right down to Cambridgeshire, and that was the sort of area that I was responsible alongside another chap to look after. At that point, I was always, passionate, as I say, about sport and whatnot like that. I was working with a young tennis player who was kind of 8 or 9 years old, who had a lot of talent. I wasn't getting paid to work with him. And that was the same with a couple of young boxers as well. Same as I was just kind of helping them out. They were about to turn professional. And that was kind of my first steps into the world of working with athletes, really, which is probably what I'm maybe most well known for now.
Yeah, fantastic. So you've just reminded me about a few things that I remember from when I started in the fitness industry. So yeah, everybody's got quite a similar path, haven't they? And then there's a big turnover of personal trainers. Of you find your direction or they spit you out. So tell us a little bit about what you've done. So you've done quite a few things, haven't you? And worked with quite some phenomenal athletes. So you go to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to spend 5 years almost 5 years, excuse me, as the head of strength conditioning, the head of performance for Team Ricky Hatton, based up in Manchester. I was responsible for looking after all of the team, all of their performance needs, and quite a few of the young boxers that I also looked after. Ricky was coming towards the end of his career at that stage. I was still involved in the last kind of, one or two. Particularly his final fight didn't go well, but there we go. We live and learn from that one. But and so I was responsible for looking after Anthony Croller, who went on to win a world title. Scott Quigg, who went on to win a world title. Ryan Burnett, who went on to win a world title. I also worked with Tony Bellew for a short period of time, particularly at the beginning of his career, who's done phenomenally well and has now become a real TV personality. Currently on SAS Who Dares Wins at the minute.
Yeah, I've been watching. I need to catch up a little bit, but yeah.
My young tennis player, Liam Brodie, turned professional. He's made Wimbledon 3 times now. I'm still involved with him. And I've gone on to work across a whole range of sports. I was involved through my friend Darren Roberts with the Red Bull Extreme program for a period of time, working with extreme sport athletes. Into working with quite a few footballers as well. The nature of football, that's probably the most difficult sport for me to talk about in terms of the legalities and NDAs and all that kind of stuff. But I've kind of worked across a whole cross section then of sports. Initially working on the sports science and strength and conditioning kind of model, but then as like with anybody, athlete or not, what you realise, I think, with a little bit of experience, is that it's all about understanding people and getting to know the athlete as a person. So I do a lot more of the coaching and the mindset kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So just to quickly finish off on like you and your story, is there anything in your background, in your fitness, personal fitness now, that you've ever struggled with, or what are the things that push you off kilter, if you like, or are just getting down to like people being human and people looking at people and thinking actually they must have things sorted? Have you had any challenges in your fitness journey?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 sports I played the most was combat sports, if you even play combat, but that's probably a talk for another day. But combat sports and football, and the problem I had in combat sports, Stuart, was I used to block punches with my face, and that wasn't particularly helpful. I just wasn't as good as I thought I was. But football in particular, I was pretty good. But there was two kind of struggles that I had, and the first one led to the second one. The second one was that when I started to push and play at the higher levels, I suffered with my confidence and my self-confidence. But that was caused and underpinned by, as a child, I was quite heavily asthmatic. So in order to kind of, the doctor who was looking after me at that time had always sort of drilled into me to get fit, and improve your lungs and your heart lungs and so forth. And long story short was that I trained very, very hard. I was very, very disciplined. I would never cut corners. I would always give 100%. And for whatever reason, I was always quite fast. But then for whatever reason, I really struggled with endurance and recovery. I would get a lot of cramps, a lot of muscle soreness. And I just couldn't get as fit as some of the people I was playing against. And no matter how hard I tried, and some of them would perhaps, maybe or maybe not train to the level or with the level of discipline I had, but they could, were fitter, faster, stronger than I was. That affected me on my journey in terms of the level of sport I could play at. And of course, as I said, it then affected the level of confidence because I started to then question myself during games and stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting about that. I talk quite a lot about that comparison with others. And one of the biggest things I do now as part of the Time Buster training platform, if you like, is talk very simplistically about fitness and health, because just keep it simple. And we talk about your fitness journey being like your fingerprint. It's unique to you. And I think quite a lot of people, and we deal with a lot of people who are anxiety ridden and confidence struck with actually doing something, just actually stepping and doing the first step in fitness. So that's interesting to hear that from your point of view. Thank you very much. So moving forward, obviously I was chatting to you before about we deal with obviously you've dealt with world champions, high elite level athletes. Perception from some people, and we're going to have some people on in a couple of weeks, about who on the face of it look like it's easy and they're smashing it. Have you got any stories regards to, and I know it comes down to a lot of the thing in elite sport with mindset and setting yourself, the physical side is potentially something that they've just had over a period of time. Anything that you've got that sort of says to people that everybody you'll work with is human and they've had their physical struggles as well, obviously not naming any names or anything?
Yeah, I mean, Muhammad Ali made the famous quote that I hated every day of training, something like, but I decided to suffer now and live the rest of my life as a champion. It was, should know that really, but you know, it was something like that, wasn't it? Yeah. What he said, and I think there is an assumption from, you know, many of us, and you know, we know what they say about assumptions and assuming, but there is an assumption that pro athletes like training, that you know, what's wrong with me? Or I wish I could like training, you know, the way a pro athlete does. I wish I could enjoy it and get as fit as they can, and and in the main, in my experience, from a lot of the athletes I've come across, they like to win, they like to compete. However, they don't overly like the training and the processes to get them there, because they're human beings just like all of us. You know, they want to eat some treats sometimes, or they want to have a meal out, and you know, football is a good one, because I mean, of course, you know, I'm certainly not suggesting we should give footballers any sympathy or anything like that, but you know, the point I'm saying is, you know, New Year's Day they play a game, they play right through Christmas, but they're human beings like we are. They want to eat nice food or tasty food. They sometimes can't be bothered to train. Quite often, more often than not, can't be bothered to train. They get sore, they get achy, they get tired. And I think if I revert it then over to boxing, boxing is, and the mindset of a boxer is fascinating. That's probably something we could speak about, you know, a subject in itself. But with many of the boxers that I've come across, again, the training is grueling. You know, it's very, very, very difficult. It hurts their body. They're sparring constantly. They're constantly pounding roads and whatnot like that. And again, there might be this assumption that they've, you know, got this sort of warrior mentality all the time, and that they're fighters and it's there all the time. And I can assure you it absolutely isn't. They have, you know, highs, lows, days when they feel, you know, really alpha, really on top of the mountain, then other days when they're full of self-doubt. But the biggest thing I've noticed, particularly with boxers, it's all about their ability to access the reward for the sacrifice. Okay. So you've got your kind of three basic learning styles, haven't you? Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, which the boxers will fall into one of those three. And the visual, man or woman, because, you know, female boxing is here to stay, and it's very popular and getting more and more popular. The visual reward, you know, I'm sick of this training, it's hurting my body, blah, blah, blah. But I can see myself holding that belt above my head. And that's that visual, the visual learners connect to that visual reward. The audio or auditory learner, you know, I hate training, my body's hurting, but I want to hear the guy or the girl on the microphone say my name as the world champion. Yeah. And then the kinesthetic, same as hate the training, but they got that feeling of that winning punch landing and that winning blow landing. And they'll tell you that they can feel the punch that they're going to win with. And it's the ability to access the rewards that keep them going through their struggles.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and that can really make people who are listening think about which one are they, and what can they focus on, because again, we're individual. I think that's knowing yourself, because working with somebody external, as we know, is great for accountability. Working one-to-one with somebody is obviously the gold standard. Having a community, that's why the boxing, with the communal setting of having everybody in it together, aren't they? It's not necessarily just, as you know, it's not just the boxer and the trainer, is it? It's the whole environment that you're creating.
Absolutely. I call it the jigsaw, and there's different pieces to the jigsaw.
Oh, interesting. I like that. Yeah. So just from that link, that's just one element. What sort of things, like if you were to put what I'm saying is that's just one element. How do you build that on a regular basis? So how do you cement that? And do you have to approach that in different directions? Or is it just the one thing that you go, if you're visual, you just go back to, if they're struggling, can you see what this is for? And that's it? Or do you have to do lots of different variations?
Yeah, like anything, sometimes we disconnect with our goals, we disconnect with our ability to access the reward. And of course, we may, just because we're a visual learner doesn't mean we are solely a visual learner. We can still learn from, kinesthetic and auditory as well. So, but normally we have a primary one, I think, don't we, that we kind of access the most. So when someone's disconnected, there's a million ways, that we can get them to a point of reconnection. I think the biggest thing sometimes is not to force things, is just to step back. And again, we talk as coaches, don't we, about being nice to ourselves. That's something that we're trying to work with, and I certainly try and work with athletes who are predominant, very driven often when they're connected. And then when that disconnect happens, it's like, oh shit, excuse my language, what do I do? What do I do now? And I'll often just say, get them just to step back, just relax, rest. We know about, and we talk about in training, and the progress is made in recovery. That sometimes we just need to step back and just chill out, recover, and then we might revisit it again another day or another day after that. And if that method doesn't work, that's okay. We'll revisit it again. That's
really interesting, because I was going to ask you a question then about that, in a way that we want instant results, don't we? And that's the same, presumably, in athletes. They're necessarily a little bit different, because they have something in a fight in 6 months, or a race in a periodic Olympic cycle or something. But sometimes you do have to step somebody back, don't you, and just it's consistency over time that's going to get you the reward at the end.
Yeah, patience isn't often an athlete's strong point. But if we go back to what I was saying a second ago about being nice, and I bring in the message for all of us here, the SMART principles and the principle of being realistic is ageless and timeless, and it always will be. And we sometimes have to remind athletes that, that they're not going to become a world champion overnight. That champions are created and built over years and years and years, and the lessons and the feedback is often learned in the failure. And and a big saying that we have is, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So that we encourage them to be nice to themselves, to be patient, to be realistic with their goals, and those basic principles. And I think there is one of the questions I get asked is, what is for this all singing, all dancing training plan that the pro athletes follow, and if I'm going to give that to a member of general pop, then that's going to give them what they need, or an all singing, all dancing nutrition plan, and it is not like that. We master the basics, and the principles are the same for all of us. And it's reminding ourselves as a working father, which I am, as the mum of 2 children who also runs a house and works part-time, or the dad who runs the house or works part-time, is that we've got, our performance jigsaw, just like an athlete's got their performance jigsaw. Their pieces may be different to our pieces, their challenges may be different to our challenges, but we've all got our own pieces of the jigsaw. And sometimes as a working man, a working woman, a family man, a family woman, it can't always be optimum. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, I love that analogy of the jigsaw. It's fantastic. So just quickly, we've got 30 seconds left. What does the future look like for you? What's going on in the next 6 weeks, 6 months?
I'm doing a lot of homeschooling with my lad. We've got a lot of quality time with him, so we've been training together, spending loads of time together. So, but trying to progress work, more online stuff for me, more athlete work, trying to keep myself fit and healthy and all that as well. I'm absolutely not perfect, you know, but I do my best, which is what I encourage everyone to do. More seminars, hopefully more sun. It's sunny here in Manchester, and there is the time.
There's a timer, but what a bombshell to finish on. It's sunny in Manchester.
Can't believe it. It's absolutely amazing.
I've seen some of your training, and it's great, and it's fantastic to see, even though the joy of social media now, to see your lad really progressing in his technique as well.
Yeah, I'd obviously, I know the time's up now, but you know, one of the big things, and again, just find a little nugget for everyone, is about finding something that you love. Now, during lockdown, I've been reminded on a personal level just how much I like bike riding, which is something I'd, for whatever reason, disconnected with. My little lad loves combat sports, and as long as he's enjoying it, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, a great message at the end. Awesome. So, Ric, thank you so much. I'm going to be putting your contact details in the links below here. So if you enjoyed that, guys, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, give us a review and follow us. And we'll be having another episode coming out next week. So, Ric, finally, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.